I kind of wanted to explore um, the energetic shift that you spoke about that occurred in Bali.
Yeah.
Was that kind of, had there been previous to that, like a pretty profound experiential recognition, and then that the energetic shift just confirmed it, or was that shift the whole thing for you? I know that you probably were experiencing shifts, like, I don't know, I guess I can't speak for your experience, but yeah.
Yeah, there was many shifts happening prior to that. Many shifts, but I didn't always recognize it. So I didn't always like sew it together or piece it together, because it's really an absence. And often when the absence occurs, there is a lot of bliss or a lot of excitement, but you don't really focus on the absent. You're more focused on what it is that you get. So it's then, and when you have the longer droppings, or dropping away, or expanding, whatever we call it, then it begins to be seen more for what it is, that it's an absence of something. It's not a getting of something. So yeah, there were many experiences, but I often either didn't recognize it was happening, which is weird, but I can't explain how that happened, but it did, or I would get lots of bliss and joy with it, and I would be focused on that, or a lot of feelings of being in love.
And so that happened prior to the energetic, or because when my perception of that was as kind of a little bit of finality. I don't know, you could correct me on that. And so I'm wondering if what you're speaking about, was that prior to that?
Yeah, that was prior to that. There was some form of finality that happened in Bali, like something really shifted on the ultimate level. It's like something became really clear, like there was a shift in perception. But on the human level, it wasn't finality. Like I still had lots of work of integrating that onto the human level and understanding this new way of being, and also working on old habits and conditions that were still in play.
Yeah, for sure.
And I could see how somebody could easily get into seeking in that, because you might believe, when a difficult emotion or experience comes up, the person might believe, oh, I've lost something, or I didn't get something. And, and get into a story about that.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when the healing process can be quite tumultuous in a way. Yeah. So basically, the kind of root of this is they're feeling like, I guess energetically, that something is still finite or like limited, pinpoint kind of. And I guess based on experience of taking in information and hearing others' experiences, there's the idea that needs to happen still or hasn't happened yet. Because it's kind of like the sense of self on a visceral level, and I don't know if that's connected with the body, but that is still limited. That, like when you spoke, like something almost like invites you out into everything else, where prior to that, you're located.
I think I've got a bit
can you speak
confused
to
of
that?
who you're talking about in this question.
Okay, yeah, because it's not really like a really well formulated question, more of like kind of an exploration, but I can definitely try to be more concise. I was speaking more like about my where this wanting this conversation is coming from, and feeling like that energetic shift that you like has not occurred.
But I would, yeah. So that's so. So you would say for you the energetic shift hasn't occurred, but you have had awakenings. Is that what your diagnosis is of your situation?
Yeah, it's more of like just the felt sense of self being more located as opposed to expansive or expanded. However, the understanding part of it is pretty deeply rooted in not like an intellectual or conceptual way, and like an experiential way. I'm more speaking of just like energetics, like the visceral kind of.
And so what's playing in what sounds like playing for you, but this is just my synopsis and maybe it will help like point to something, is a feeling that like an observation, the feeling that there is something missing in the experience. So that I have experienced this energetic shift and that you haven't. And those are two stories that you're telling yourself in your mind, which in a way I'm upholding because I've said this on the internet before. But again, it's a story which is appearing. But it's appearing in that stillness of who you are. And then there's a part of you that emotionally believes in that. And then a part of you which will emotionally seek in that. And it's just doing the opposite. So it's going in. So when that feeling arises of I've lost something, just going in the opposite way to that feeling, or not that I've lost something, you didn't have that, but that I haven't quite got it. So there is still a sense of contraction. Because there can be a sense of contraction and a knowing of this expansion. Like, so there can be an emotional contraction, there can be uncomfortable energies happening in the body, but your essence, the consciousness, is expanded. So it's not even like, don't put any barriers up. It's not even the idea of contraction and expansion which belongs to the person. Like, the person can be in deep, deep pain, so it can really feel the limitations of its body and the pain in the body, but then there's something else that's very expanded. So rather though than getting too involved in those thoughts, I would just go the opposite way to how that makes you feel. Like, how does that make you feel? Like that you might not have you might not have got it, or you might only get it some of the time.
I see. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah.
What does that make you feel like when that arises, those thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, right now I feel the opposite of that. Kind of in that scene of the attention going to that contraction, and then identification with it as being something real, and in the falling away of that, it's joyful. But when it does come up again, now I know what to do, as far as there probably being remaining traces of that feeling component of something that hasn't been met yet.
It always wants to, so feeling comes up and then it always wants to go into some form of narration about the feeling. And then it's always coming back to what you truly are. And you can do the opposite journey where you go into the feeling you know, you go in and you keep going and going and going and going deeper into the feeling, and then underneath or all around that feeling is the freedom of who you are. Which is
so in this case, the feeling of missing or something not yet being complete, going into that.
Yeah. And you can go deeper than it not being complete. Like there will be deeper feelings. There could be, not saying in your case, but just as an example, there could be hopelessness, frustration, stuckness, powerlessness, unfairness. You know, it's really getting to those deep feelings that hide under, and then present themselves as a story of thinking about, like, I'm contracted or not contracted. And it's really just coming back to whatever is appearing. And all of it is okay. There's nothing to escape. There's nothing to narrate. Although narration happens, it's not wrong.
Oh gosh, I'm so happy to have my attention brought to that little piece, that light shone on that little piece, because it gets so subtle, you know. It's so subtle.
Nice. Be speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Bye.